The theme for June is the divine masculine and creativity, and today's title is Discovering Your Creativity. So I happen to know something about each and every one of you. You are a creative genius. You are divine. It's true. It's always been true, and it will always be true. You can run from it, but it will follow you. You can't put your light under a bushel. You can hide, but it will find you. So let's start with this question. What is the divine masculine energy? Okay? Divine masculine exists for a powerful reason. It is the energy that propels us forward, that makes us do things when we might hold back. The force that gives, just as the divine feminine receives. Its role is to protect as the divine feminine nurtures, to act from a place of strength as the divine feminine acts from a place of softness. The divine masculine represents consciousness itself. That which never changes, and through the divine feminine, thought and inspiration come into form. You need both masculine and feminine energies for wholeness. It is partially why we have all been taken on these roles as male or female, and we all have both energies within us. We aren't just all one. Both forces exist within all of us, regardless of our gender or sexual identity or orientation. They live in the spirit alongside each other, and the masculine provides the feminine with the muscle she needs to be lifted to her highest state of creativity. But I'll just preface that by saying if you ask any woman, they'll say, I don't need no man's muscle to do that. But what we're saying is metaphysically, that's how they balance each other. That's how the yin and the yang create together to become one. Because there's really only one of us here. God, expressing as the countless forms that we are. So we all have some kind of genius. But for many of us, life experiences have toned it down, have possibly made us feel that we weren't genius. School, the workplace may have done little to confirm our genius. Maybe the status quo, just to get by, was all we didn't want to stand out too much. We didn't want to exert our divine creativity because we might be ridiculed for it. So how do you find your hidden masculine creative genius? One way is through crafts. You say, wow, crafting is masculine. Actually, creativity is masculine and feminine, of course, because you need both. That's why we're balancing the harmony of the universe here. I believe that there are steps you can take to begin to flex that muscle of creativity in your life. So, one of the steps that I found is becoming like a child again. Becoming like a little kid. When was the last time you bought a bunch of crayons, maybe got some glue, maybe did some cutouts, and sat on the floor and just messed around with just being creative and doing something with no agenda and no one watching you? Watch what little kids do, especially in unrestricted situations. Remember the things you enjoyed doing as a kid? Who supported you in them and who discouraged you in them? What did it feel like when you were playing and feeling free to use your imagination? Pretend to be 5 again. So, we've all heard about our inner child, right? We do our best to keep it in check, to keep it on the down low, right? We don't want that little child to come out and play when it's inappropriate, right? But if we can set aside time just for that little child to play, it will give us the divine creative juices and flow that we're looking for in our life. We need to express, we need to have that class, like I talked about last week, that isn't taught in school. The one that when you were looking out the window and the teacher said, "Hey, Stephen, back here." And I'd be, "Oh, but there's a butterfly out there, and I wonder where it's going and what it's doing, and how did it become a butterfly?" No, we're on something else right here. So play. I'm encouraging you to play. This is how you develop your creative, divine masculine, as you play. What is play? One part of the definition is freedom of movement within a space, freedom of action or scope for activity. I would say color outside the lines. Don't have a predetermined thing that you're setting out to accomplish. Maybe the accomplishment is just the feeling of the glue on your fingertips, or that feeling of just putting paint on the paper with your hands. You know, maybe it doesn't come out looking like anything, but what was the feeling of doing that, right? Do you guys remember that? You guys remember playing with Play-Doh? Just, yeah, go, yeah. You remember? Or that feeling of sand between your toes. Isn't that wonderful? Just feeling the sand between your toes. We need to do that every once in a while. Note the emphasis on freedom. Can you feel unleashed at times in your life? Now, this doesn't mean that you go crazy, but maybe it does, within certain, confines. But it lets your inner child play. We need to play. Summer is here. Remember we had summer vacations? Oh man, I had 3 months off. I was like, oh man, this is like forever. I get to sleep in and, go to the beach with my friends. I mean, when was the last time you did that? So sit on the floor with a big piece of paper and don't worry about making a mess. Try drawing with the opposite hand, your non-dominant hand, and see what comes out. Play like this as often as you can. Set aside time in your day planner to play. Because, as respectable adults, we have a schedule. We have a list. What if you were to plan play into that list? It'd be like, well, I'm so uncomfortable playing, I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. But that's the point, is to not accomplish anything. So I want you to put on your list for this next week, play. I'm going to play. So which brings me to my next step, is changing your inner voice. As you play, notice the inner voices that you hear. Perhaps they sound like this. This is just for me. I don't know if any of you share this, but when you start playing and you start going, I'm too old to be doing this sort of thing. What am I doing? I can't draw. I never have been able to. I'm not artistic. This is silly. Let that happen. But keep doing the playing. Keep playing with the Play-Doh. Keep drawing with your non-dominant hand. Keep mixing colors that you don't think should be mixed together and seeing what happens. Don't let your inner voices stop you. That's the critic. That's the critic that keeps your inner child from playing, and why you might feel restricted. Why you don't have that sensation of being free is because our inner critic is constantly keeping the inner child from expressing. And that's not good. Now, there's a place for both of them, but you must give time and space to both of them to have their time. The inner critic has possibly been so in charge for so long that your inner child is so afraid of coming out to play that these are the things you say to yourself when you go to play. I can't be doing this. This isn't productive. This isn't on my list. So put it on your list and do it. 5 minutes. And watch what happens. 5 minutes may turn into 5 hours. Have some fun with it. So change your self-talk by doing affirmations. Start using affirmations. And affirmations are positive statements you repeat often to reinforce the changes you'd like to make in your thinking. And I will say this, you don't affirm something to make it true. You affirm it because it's already the truth of you. That's practitioner consciousness. Again, you don't affirm something to make it true. Maybe you start there, you fake it till you make it, but you stand in knowing and affirming what you are. So we're going to do a couple, okay? I am talented and a creative person.
I am talented and a creative person.
Okay, that's good. Now, like you mean it. I'm a talented and creative person.
I am a talented and creative person.
Well, so, okay. Loosen it up. I am an artist.
I am an artist.
I am an artiste.
I am an artiste.
Doesn't that feel good? It's silly, right? Your inner child's going, yay! Your critic's going, what are you doing? And that's okay. Just stay with me. I am a creative genius.
I am a creative genius.
Now, from your heart, I am a creative genius. Yes. Do you feel that? Do you feel the little shivers, little tingles, little God bumps? Yes. This may seem a little strange at first, but as you work at it, it becomes easier. The more you start affirming your own genius, the more you'll discover your creative side. And that's why we're here, people. Spiritual beings having a human experience. That's why we're here, is to color outside the lines. Turn the page over where there's no lines. Just make some swervy lines. And then take pride in your creation. Have a place to display what you have created. If you're not brave enough to hang your work up on your wall for all to see, keep them in a folder or a portfolio or a scrapbook. Better yet, hang them on your refrigerator and display them in a prominent place where you see it all the time. Admire them and say, I made this. I made this. You know, people may come over and go, oh, has your grandchild been at work? Yes, it has. But display it and be proud of it. You know, when your child brought you their first kindergarten drawing of you or something like that, and it was beautiful. And they knew exactly what it was, and you had to ask them, so what is this? But you hung it up nonetheless, didn't you? You hung it up, and you looked at it with those eyes of love. That's the way we need to love ourselves as our divine children. We need to make a mess and love it, and be okay with it, and go, oh, look at you. Look at you go. Look at you go. Oh, you go. What are you going to make tomorrow? What are you going to do tomorrow? Think about it. So, I've found that we can make a study of our creativity. You can do this in lots of ways. You can look at other people in your life who you consider really creative and kind of, model yourself after what they do. Study them closely, ask them questions, interview them. What makes you so creative? And you might be surprised at what you find. Once you observe the behavior associated with creativity, you can also begin modeling it yourself. Learn to exercise your creativity muscle and it's something that can be developed. Once you start writing with your non-dominant hand, you'll become more dominant with it. You'll become better at it, and it will start to express in ways that the other dominant hand cannot. That's how it works. That's how it works. Challenge yourself with creative problems and puzzles. Now, I don't mean the, crossword type stuff. I mean, those are kind of, you can always look in the back and find the answer to those. Do something, why don't you make your own puzzle? Make your own puzzle. Like take a picture and cut it into sections. And if you can put it together within 5 minutes, you're not doing it right. Cut it into little pieces and then try to put it back together for yourself. And maybe draw your own picture and cut it into pieces and try to put it back together. Get your mind stimulated in recreating, recreation. Find your most creative time of the day. Now, everyone has a creative sweet spot, a time during the day when you're just better than your normal self. Studies show this, so it's important to find yours. We've found ourselves in the creative zone at some point in the day. So if you're a morning person, if you're up, early, get up just a little earlier and make, 5 or 10 minutes to be creative. If you're a night owl, stay up late for 5 or 10 more minutes and do something creative with it. If you're both, you need to go to bed. I'm kidding, because I've been both. So, the science behind your creativity is, in the big picture, science has ignored the idea of creativity until recently. And it wasn't until 1950 when an American psychologist, Guilford, suggested that creativity was worth researching, which is to say, in broad terms, the research is still young, right? They had said at one point that they weren't going to issue any more patents because everything has been discovered, right? And how wrong they were, right? Patent pending. There is always something new to be rediscovered or put into your own light. So find what works for you and work it. So this may sound funny, but you're most likely creative when you're groggy. It's thought that problem solving comes most naturally when you're unfocused and you allow your brain to wander. Now, why is this? When your conscious mind is not engaged, your subconscious mind can engage and begin to bring the answer to you. Have you ever tried to figure something out and then you broke away from it, and when you came back, the answer was right there? That's what that's about. Or you went to bed not knowing and you woke up knowing what the answer was. It's your connection to the spiritual energy where the creative genius comes through. And that's not your conscious mind. That's your unconscious mind or subconscious mind. When somebody comes in and they fall asleep during my service, which happens here and there, it's the biggest compliment a minister can have. Because I'm speaking directly to their subconscious mind. They can't figure it out, right? They're not trying to figure it out. They're just, no. This is why if you fall asleep to the TV and the news is on, and you wake up going, whoa, what dream did I have? Right? Because you don't have the ability to reason what's right and wrong. You just are a sponge, bringing it all in. So, I would invite you, if you're going to sleep to the TV, put on something really cool. Put a music video on or something that is good for you, because it's going directly in. It's going directly in. So exercise can make you more creative, because when you're when you're tired, when you've exercised and you're like, oh man, whew, you're not quite all there consciously. You're expended because you've overstimulated yourself to be a little bit tired. And all of a sudden, all the energies are firing. Does this make sense? Do we notice some trends here? So contrary to what you may think, you're most creative when you're non-optimal level of consciousness. Now, in the studying I did, it was saying something about when you're drunk, you're more creative. And then it said, you only think you're more creative when you're drunk. You're actually less creative when you're drunk. So don't go there. That's not the way to go. I've been there, done that, and it's not good. But being okay with not being perfectly there is okay. Just don't stimulate yourself to the point where you aren't conscious any longer by a self-stimulant that may harm you. So moderation is the key, kids. So, and what we found in this teaching is visioning, meditation, and prayer are the ways to be most creative. That's what's so beautiful about our teaching, is we teach you, we encourage you to be more creative through your prayers, through listening to the divine, through visioning and taking the spiritual perspective. So in conclusion, you're a genius. You are genius. You are inspired, which means you are in spirit. Yay! Yeah! Can I have a hallelujah? Hallelujah! I've always wanted to do that. So your divine masculine exists for a powerful reason. It's the energy that propels us forward. Become a kid again. Play. Change your inner voice, your self-talk. Don't be so critical. Be more of your inner child. It's okay. Learn how to exercise your creativity muscle, because you truly are a creative genius. And so it is. Let's follow our teaching and go within. So I invite you to bring to the forefront of your consciousness whatever you believe the energy of life is to you. What created you? What do you think is behind your ideas? Your creative genius is the divine spirit expressing, as only you can. You are a one-of-a-kind. You are special, like everybody else. So knowing that we are the divine connection between the no-thing and the everything, we allow love to saturate our very being. We allow love to be the glue that holds everything together. I may not know what you're working with, but I know that God knows. And as we introduce the spiritual energy of divine right action into everything that is, everything that is for our highest and best starts to filter through, starts to rise to the level of consciousness, and we become aware. We become clear. And answers are revealed. Healing happens. All the right molecules are sent to all the right places that allow the healing energy of the divine to do its wonderful work in our bodies and in the bodies of our affairs, in our experience of this thing called life, as we turn to what we believe the power of creation is, leaving behind the challenge, not to deny it, but not to give it any more power, we turn into God. We literally turn in to God because that's all we have ever been. And as we acknowledge that, it starts to express as our genius, as who and what we truly are. So I give great thanks for that energy of knowing, for the healing and the revealing of truth that is happening right now. How good it is to know that there is an answer, there is a way, and that you are that divine connection. So I accept these ideas, this loving energy, this truth, and allow it to work in my life in a way that brings the miraculous energy of wholeness into all that is. As I turn this over into the law, placing these words directly into that power that knows exactly what to do and how to do it. Giving great thanks that this is already done. We affirm it together by saying, and so it is. Amen. Okay.